business is spending money, and thus the supply of funds is getting short, but the consumer is not?
It means, in fact, that the general economic situation is improving, that businessmen see it early and are now beginning to make their plans and increase their borrowings at banks. Meanwhile, banks are seeing increased costs of funds to them to in turn lend to business. But the word here is businessmen, yes.
Okay, now then, the consumer is going to begin to see possibly a shortage of money, and as he does so, his rate is, as you indicate, going to get higher. Are you suggesting then that if a person wants to buy something, they better buy it now while the rate is at its low?
Well, I would think that would be the best strategy, Jim, and as a matter of fact, I would think that the interest rate levels right now, pretty much across the board at their lowest points they'll be for the next 2 or 3 years. So to answer your question, yes, now is the time.
The question facing representatives is, who will be sitting in this speaker's seat during the special session? That's one of the first questions, but it's not by any means the only one or even the major one. Speaker Gus Mutscher has said he would relinquish the gavel before the session starts, leaving Representatives Rayford Price of Palestine and DeWitt Hale of Corpus Christi struggling for the speaker's position. Both have claimed enough pledges to sit here, and then there's Representative Paul Moreno of El Paso, who has said he'd introduce bills of impeachment against both Governor Preston Smith and Lieutenant Governor Ben Barnes. There's a strong doubt that the House, faced with such a question, would vote to impeach, or if it did, that the Senate would convict. At any rate, with that proceeding in motion, how would it affect political careers in various parts of the state? That, of course, may not even be answered until the primary election, May the 6th. There may even eventually be enough time to get to the subjects of this called session, a bill by law that would qualify Texas to receive more than $24 million in federal highway beautification funds, and an appropriations bill to pay for that primary election. But most Austin observers are doubtful that the governor's hope for a short session will come to pass. Phil Reynolds, Channel 8 News on the Move in Austin. Two of the biggest up-in-the-air things, even before the special session starts, are the possible bills of impeachment against the governor and the lieutenant governor to be introduced by Representative Paul Moreno of El Paso. The representative tells me he's had that idea in the back of his mind for some time, but the Governor Preston Smith's call Saturday for a special session to begin Tuesday caught him by surprise.
I was expecting him to call us after the holidays, and I was planning on drawing up the necessary papers over the holidays. But since it was such a quick action, here I am, stranded and trying to write up that we can introduce him tomorrow.
There's at least a good chance those bills of impeachment won't make it out of committee in the House. In the meantime, I've learned Senator Oscar Mazzei of Dallas has asked for the list of gubernatorial appointments, and there are hundreds. Whether the Senate will finally take up those appointments is still a question, but Governor Smith's hopes of a quick session appear to be quickly fading. This is Phil Reynolds, Channel 8 News on the Move in the House of Representatives.
Lyons said that the city has not yet seen a copy of the district attorney's application for federal funds to support the new computer system. He added that the district attorney's initial presentation of the plan dealt only with coordinating and aiding all law enforcement activities, when in fact the plan also calls for a court system and other county civil needs. Under the district attorney's plan, the computer would be set up separately from the city's existing computer system. Lyons feels that in the interest of time, overall cost, and to prevent unnecessary duplications, the city and county should coordinate their efforts toward expanding the city's computer operation to encompass county affairs. Some councilmen are opposed to the DA's plan, and Councilwoman Margaret Rimmer has called it silly. District Attorney Doug Crouch was in court today and not available for immediate comment. In other action today, the council, as expected, voted to allocate $83,000 as their share for a rapid transit system study between Dallas-Fort Worth and the regional airport. Included will be the study of the tracked air cushion vehicle. Dallas voted last week to pay an equal share of $83,000. The U.S. Department of Transportation will finance the remaining $322,000 of a $1.5 million study. Jim Green, Channel 8 News on the Move in Fort Worth.
But that same ball that I could hit here, I can't hit here. Now, get up there and do that, and then just do that. Now what chance have you got? You got no chance. If you're up here and you give just a little bit, you still can reach out and hit that ball. You agree to that? Now you stay back. But again, you're a good low ball hitter, and you give the perfect answer when I asked you, but again, you got to admit you didn't get as much breaking stuff as, say, the guy with power. And they didn't want to walk it. Now, see, the guy that's going to get a lot of breaking stuff in, or a guy that's going to get, they're going to say, well, as long as we don't, you got to worry about the tough pitch 3 and 2 more than you would. And I say that if this ball bothers from the left-hander and it bothers all left-hand hitters, you're a lot better off here, because even if you move out a little bit, you've still got a chance at it. But if you're back here and you do that, boy, I'm telling you, you got no way of hitting it. Don't you agree? Yes, sir. Now, a lot of young left-hand hitters have trouble with this pitch. And when they're here, boy, and you're going to hit the ball there, that's a pitch, because you're going to have to hit it here. But if I'm here, that same pitch is a ball now. Right? And you get a better ball to hit there. So anybody has trouble breaking stuff, I think, personally, don't give that pitcher a chance to get the big sweep one.
Well, they're resting some of their ball players. They have rested some of the ball players, and they've been getting ready mentally and everything. And the first 2 games are there, so naturally they're going to have a little bit of the edge there. But I think we're going to give them a good show.
Do you think they've been trying to lull you into false sense of security, perhaps with Zelmo laying off? Is there any truth to this?
Somewhat, maybe. It's probably has a dual purpose, but I'm sure he has knee problems. There's no doubt about that. But regardless of what they try to do, we're going out there, really hungry.
Are you pleased with the performance of the other players? I know you're pleased with what you've been doing.
Very much so. As I've said before so often, that the forwards really make this ball club go, and it makes it a lot easier on me. When the front line is really moving and playing, there's nobody that can really stop us.
Has it bothered you any as the close of the season came about, reading about Charlie Scott and the like?
Well, I'm kind of the loyal type, Jerry, and I tell you, I hate to see, the league lose some good ball players like that, and it's bothered me somewhat. But you can't get on a person for trying to better himself or his position,
By any chance to the NBA, were you ever contacted by them over the year about making a jump?
I haven't even been thinking about that. No, no.
You're happy here in Dallas then?
I'm happy, you know, and you know, the people have been coming out. That we've been getting better crowds. We've been winning. It's all the ingredients are here for a good franchise and a good winning club, and so you know, right now I'm happy.
Perhaps the experimental and the unknown aspect of it is the most difficult thing to know, and the fact that it does not seem to accomplish the initial objective of reduced rates. But I don't believe I'd be able to rate myself the good or bad qualities. You think you have an answer there, Mr. Morton?
Well, I'd say that if you want to talk in terms of what's the worst about no fault, that you have to decide whether you want to talk about principle or money. If you want to talk about principle, then the worst thing about it is doing away with the deeply embedded moral principle of individual responsibility for a person's conduct. The no-fault law would wipe this out and do away with individual responsibility. If you want to talk about money, that would involve insurance rates. All three members of the insurance board, as the statement says, have stated that this is not going to cure that problem at all. It's probably going to cause an increase in rates.
Interest rates are on their way up again. If you've been keeping track over the past 2 weeks, then you know the prime lending rate, that charged a bank's most credit-worthy customers, has gone from a base rate of 4 3/8% by one New York bank to now 5% by virtually all banks. That rate is the one charged big business, those businesses who use the most money in the nation, 500 to be exact. But if they're going to have to start paying more for their money, what about you, the consumer? Doesn't it stand to reason that it's going to cost you more to borrow? That's why we've gone to one of Dallas' leading economists, Dr. Jim Byrd. Dr. Byrd, quite frankly, if business is going to have to pay more for its money, what about the consumer? Can he be far behind?
Well, it may be several months, Jim, but eventually rates on consumer loans also will reflect increases as there's increased demand for loans generally in the economy.
Now, are you speaking of the auto loan, furniture loan, personal loan, boat loans, this type of business?
Yes, individual loans, loans to individuals for purchasing such things as those appliances that you speak of will be several months coming. We're late in the year, but they will eventually, too, reflect increased costs of funds.
Now, we find ourselves right now with our lowest interest rates in the home mortgage business. Will that rate now tend to get higher?
Well, not initially either, Jim. As a matter of fact, the institutions that make most of the home loans, the mortgage loans, are still fairly well loaded with loanable funds. So it's likely to be quite late this year or early next year before there's any increase across the board in new home loans.
Well, the OEO's report is supposed to be ready sometime this week, and therefore they requested with the mayor the April 4th. I don't think there's any significance other than that's when the report will be ready.
What is the reaction of the council at this point to city-county takeover?
Oh, I think as I feel the pulse of the council, we would prefer having the board type of operation continue if it can be made workable, and that's what we would hope to see happen.
we have the draft on the resolution prepared, and it should be ready tomorrow. Of course, talking to the individual members is going to be my biggest problem, again, support. And the fact that there's an election year, that some of my friends tell me, well, this is I got Smith supporters in my district and Barnes supporters in my district, and if I vote for this resolution, well, both those supporters are going to turn against me. That's going to be the practical problem that I'm going to have.
How does your support look now, Monday?
We received a letter, the mayor received a letter this week stating that the OEO is making a very intensive study of the problems here in Dallas, and that as a result they would like to meet with him on April the 4th. And following that time, we would like to get together back with the county commissioners and discuss the OEO recommendations as well as other actions, and see what status we ought to take.
I can't tell. There's very few people in town, and as it is right now, the main strategy right now, some of the guys that are here in town, their main problem right now is trying to gain forces for the speakership race.
When do you figure the bills of impeachment will come before the House?
I think that if we can file them tomorrow, that we'd be in good shape, and then possibly Tuesday we'll have them referred to a committee.
The question of civil service in Dallas County has been kicked around for a couple of years now, and finally it's going to make the November ballot, the November 3rd ballot, for a general referendum on whether or not Dallas County employees really want civil service. Now, the sheriff's employees have already made their feelings known publicly. However, it seems strange that the great majority of other county employees, more than 2,000, haven't voiced their opinion on it. The reason given to Channel 8 News reporters privately is that they're afraid of their jobs. They're afraid of repercussions from the Commissioner's Court and from their own department heads. Commissioner Jim Tyson outlines his reasons for wanting civil service for employees of Dallas County.
Well, I think that this is the only way to go. There's too much politics involved, and I think that all the employees, some 2,000 that we have now, that should have the same rules applied and not the rules of each individual office holder.
County department heads such as Tom Ellis say that they would have a great deal of trouble in trying to run their department smoothly. We also have the comment of one county employee who wasn't afraid to talk about the problem of civil service for county employees. She's been an employee for 3 or 4 years, has worked under civil service before. First, Tom Ellis, and then Peggy Kendrick. If civil service were voted in, would it hamper your ability to run your department?
Malcolm, I think it would. We feel that the elected official should have the free hand of employing and, of course, discharging workers in the office and courthouse.
Why, in what way would it be able to disrupt your office?
Well, when you have a civil service plan, it gives more or less the padding, something in between the worker and the employer. To get full cooperation, the clerk knows, that is the worker, knows that the employer means business. You just get more cooperation. You get better employers, get better employees, get better workers. They'll stay longer. They'll produce more.
What do your fellow employees feel toward civil service? What do you tell them when they ask you about it?
I tell them just what I've told you. Most of the people here have not worked in the civil service. And the way it's been explained to them by certain officers who really want it, that it's going to be a really great something. And what they really don't realize, it's not going to be any better than what we've got, and there's nothing wrong with what we've got.
We'll know the results in November, and at least the question will be settled one way or the other until next year. Malcolm Landess for Channel 8 News, On the Move.
There's some people outside who are saying at the present time that either 150 come back or none at all, that they're going to stay together and so on. Do you have a reaction to that?
Well, of course, we would hope that all 150 come back to school. We want all 150 to come back. We want them to come back. They must come back through the normal DISD policies, and that is that after a suspension of this nature to be reinstated, it's after a conference with the students and the parents. We're setting up 6 hearing officers tomorrow to work with the parents and the students as individuals. We have more than 60% of the students involved with a conference tomorrow. We can have the rest of them on a conference on Wednesday. It is our intention and our desire to get the students back in school as quickly as possible, with as little lost time as possible, with a constructive attitude, so that the teacher and the student might work together for quality education. The problems that we are encountering are not only problems of this school, they are the problems of our community, our state, and our nation.